Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Just wanted to talk about something really quick. Hopefully really quick. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Sandra. So we're basically all just, excuse me, we're all just a giant mirror, studying itself, viewing itself, perceiving itself, theorizing itself, philosophizing itself, classifying itself. We're the universal mirror to our own selves, and this is why I say the point from which we view all is the all, and it just is a matter of realization and, enough persistence of the journey into self-discovery, which will allow one to see into this and find out what you actually are. And that's the greatest trick, is you are appearing as everything you in fact are not, which is where there is room for error, because you are seeing into the illusion of what you are not. But this is where we can study ourselves, study what we are, which will lead us into a trail. And this trail should have us ending right where we began, realizing before our birth into this conscious vessel, we were no form. But we obviously came from something. So it's possible to be no thing and everything. So what I feel spirituality and the journey of self-discovery is, ultimately, is you leading yourself into what you actually are, is you finding out that the point which you view all from is already the entirety. And that's where you have the game of separation, the game of illusion, which is the separation. Everything appears separate, so this is why we have to learn, this is why we have to study, this is why we have to theorize what we are. Because we're trying to connect the dots and return us back into what we actually were before this. We're trying to find our way back home and be a part of this energy which we're calling God, what we know as infinite, which is what we know as, to be all things a part of this one word of God. So we're trying to make the connections which will lead us back home, which will lead us back into the real self and not illusion. And there's two sides to the coin, just as all things, right? So some people will say, this is amazing, this is just what they've been looking for, because, of course, you're finding out you've been enslaving yourself this whole time. So for some people, this is their very liberation, whereas other people make this into a maddening or lonely discovery, and they let them drive them mad. Because you're finding out all is connected, all is one, all is you, and there is in fact, no separateness. So you have therefore peeled back the layers of this illusion of separation. But some people don't know how to handle themselves afterwards. Some people don't know how to make something out of this afterwards. And this is, again, this is where there's two sides of it. Just because you've realized oneness and you've seen into what you really are does not mean you part ways with the ego of self in the body. There is a very specific reason we are here in the finite form of a mortal. And this is where, understanding the self, better understanding what we are, outside of this body will help you see into why we need a physical body, why we need a host or a vessel to house our consciousness. Because again, if consciousness is everything and no thing, then we have to create an illusory host or body to house this infinite point of everything. And this is why our minds can conceptualize anything and every single thing, and I do mean everything. We have the ability to conceptualize anything and everything because our mind is already the anything and everything we seek. But we appear separate from this, so again, we are the human birth, looking for the human origin, looking for the human consciousness, looking for the human starting point. And that's where we have to realize we are not a human being. We are pure consciousness, which is infinite, has no boundary, has no illusion to it, has no identity to it. You are the anything, everything, and no thing. Which means anything you can conceptualize of the mind is an illusion, is not what you actually are, is an ideal image, is a host, is an illusion, is a dream. But to dream is also the only way to exist. And again, this is where I say, seeing into what we actually are, into infinity, into Source, will allow you to realize why we are here as a body and as a mortal, to understand everything we are, in fact, not. And that's where there is an advantage in being birthed here. Through having a birthing and through having a death, I now have a identity and a boundary of self. Whereas if I didn't have a specific birthing and ending, then I'm all over the place. I'm everywhere, I'm happening all over, and there's no distinction or separation between Tyler, history, and anything else that's happened. So through time, we're bringing order to chaos, which is infinity. So we're bringing a finite order into the chaotic infinite void of everything and nothingness. Through individualism, we can become self-aware of ourselves and become that mirror or that fractal folding on top of itself to view its own self. We can become the camera lens which captures its own focal point. Most people in quantum physics can't answer the question as far as what matter is. It's a mystery in quantum physics, and it's only a mystery because we're still considering matter to be an independent and separate thing from consciousness. We're looking for what's creating matter, what started matter, what's making matter physical, right? What's making everything appear real, come to life as matter. And then they found out that, matter is 99.9999 empty space, because the atom is 99.99 empty space. So not almost, every single thing, literally everything we see, is 99.9999% empty space. And that is because there is no separation between the projector and what's being projected. This is why they've not been able to find the source into matter. They're still under the idea that matter is separate from consciousness. Consciousness is not producing matter. Matter is not produced from consciousness or through consciousness, but it is. The outside and inside are in fact one thing. They're the same thing. And this is where, once you see the two are one, it doesn't matter whether we live inside of an earth, outside of an earth, because the inside and outside are the same thing. You would not know the difference between inside or outside. You would not know the difference between your birthing and your death. You would not know the difference between being alive and dead. You wouldn't. If you were dead right now, you would have no idea, other than the name you're giving it. But that's the trick in duality, is the two are one. And they're only separate and distinct because you're the one point in between, separatizing them, distinguishing them as different things. So my consciousness can perceive hot water from cold water because I am the focal point, which creates duality, which creates the duality so that I can experience two polar opposites and distinguish them as such. Same thing with the inside and outside of things. I can distinguish Tyler from you, the inside from the outside, because I'm aware they're separate. They're distinguishable because of me. I am the point between which can distinguish both. But the two are in fact one. They're not separate. They are the same. I am you, you are me. The inside and outside are the same thing. And this is why it doesn't matter whether we live inside an earth, outside an earth, inside the universe, outside the universe. The two are one and the same. It's the same thing. And the fact of the matter is, just as I said, everything we're experiencing is 99.9999999% empty space, so that's the grand realization, is there is no physical earth. There is no physical earth, there is no physical sun, there is no physical moon. Welcome to reality. Or should I say, welcome to Wonderland. Where everything that you thought was real dissolves into illusion. Where everything you thought was real becomes a game. And for the people who haven't made the connection thus far yet, our consciousness is the alien we seek. Our consciousness is the God we seek. Our consciousness is any conceptualization we've created and given the idea of being a higher consciousness. That consciousness is our consciousness. You can call it higher, lower, mid-consciousness, it doesn't matter. Consciousness is what it is. And we are consciousness. We are one. We are this consciousness. It doesn't matter if you're lower consciousness, if you're higher consciousness. There is an infinite amount of dimensions, which is an infinite amount of information, which will change the way you perceive certain things. So you find out everything's 99.99% empty space. Everything outside of you, the earth, everything is 99.99% empty space. So in fact, that's when you can begin asking yourself, what is it we're in fact looking for? Why are we looking for the source in matter? And why is it, even the bigger question, why is it that we cannot find it? So, small question, why are we looking for source in matter? Big question, why cannot we find it? Why can't we find it? Why? Another question, why can we not find the alien we've been searching for centuries? Why can we not find the higher intelligent alien with the green head and the bald round chin, the bald head? Why can we not find these things? Why are we not finding them? And I can tell you why. It's because we've been sold an image. We've been sold a story. We've been sold an illusion, and we've bought this illusion. We've bought this image which we have been sold. Just as we've been sold the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was one realization to source consciousness, which is oneness. All is one, which is the Freemason motto, omnia ab uno, all from one, because we are all one consciousness, and this is the grand realization into infinity of consciousness. Not form, not spirit, not God, but consciousness. Consciousness is what produces and makes God, is what makes angels, is what makes aliens, is what makes humans, is what makes any life form we seek. Consciousness is where all this information and knowledge is coming from. So the human being is seeking alien life in outer space, and we're constantly seeking for a higher intelligence, which is product to consciousness. We are this consciousness. So everything we are seeking out right now is what we actually are. But this is why I've said you'll keep missing it until you finally make the realization and connection. And this is why this video is called, or I forget exactly what I titled it, but basically the point which you view all things is already the entirety. It's just a matter of realization and self-discovery which you can find out this and see into it. See, your focal point is already the entirety. Nothing outside of you which you have experienced thus far is separate from you. But you have experienced it as so. Because you are under the grand illusion and having a finite mortal experience, which is the purpose. But there are some mortals, some people in the video game that begin to think outside of the video game, that begin to think outside of the boundaries, and begin to question things maybe they should not. Things that were not programmed into them to question. And that's when the game starts changing. That's when the creation becomes the creator. And infinity becomes infinity again through creation. Through creation, the creation becomes the creator, and that creator creates, and that creation becomes the creator, and that creation becomes the creator, and so on, and so on, and so on. And that is what a fractal pattern does. It infinitely unfolds on itself. And that's what our consciousness is doing. We're constantly studying, theorizing, philosophizing, expressing what we are as the consciousness. And it's been said for centuries. This is one thing that's never changed. All is one. We're all one. We're all connected. The expressions have been changed. The sentences, the theories, the philosophies have changed. But one thing that has never changed is that we are all one. We are all connected. It's what every religion is based on. It's what every religion is fundamentally teaching. Yet they're also teaching that every other religion is wrong. But how can they be wrong if they are a part of the very one which started from you, which started from the original? If all is one, nothing is wrong. That goes back to duality. Again, I can distinguish and separate duality through my mind because of me. I am the very point which creates the duality. I am split in my brain between two hemispheres. Therefore, I have to choose between this side of the brain or that side of the brain. And this goes for everything. Do I want to choose science, facts, or do I want to choose religion of faith? Split. I'm split between duality. We all are. You want fact or you want faith. But don't forget. Do not ever forget. All duality, just because you're split in the brain, does not mean you have to see or fall for the illusion. If you wish to see through the illusion and want to stop playing the game, you very well easily can. Just a matter of making the unconscious conscious. And this is where I say the two are in fact one. If you pick science, it's the same product of the mind as you picking religion, and vice versa, because they're two of one and the same. They're a conceptualization from one mind, one focal point, but they're separated and distinguished through the very same mind which created both of them. Just as I've created God, I've created a devil, so I have good and bad, and I can distinguish good and bad from the inside of my brain. Therefore, the two are not separate. They're one idea, one construct of the mind. Life and death. They're the same construct of the mind. I could be alive, I could be dead. I have no idea whether I'm alive or dead right now. The only difference is the sound expression that I give it. Life, death. They sound different. Therefore, they have a different created image in your mind when I say them. But we would not know the difference between either one because the fact is they don't exist. They don't in fact exist. That's the trick of duality. You are creating this illusion. All in duality is one. And the one is creating the illusion of this and this or this or this, because we are split in the brain between two hemispheres. But this is the ultimate realization. It slowly begins with small things, which progresses your consciousness and self-awareness into something greater than yourself. So, for instance, this is where my awakening began. This is where my journey began right here. I was drawing these mandalas. I was drawing these all day long. And it finally hit me, because I see people who post this, and this is excellent work. This is divine work. This is beautiful work. Don't get me wrong. But it finally hit me, because I was doing this for months on end. Months. It finally hit me. I could be doing this for the rest of my life, but when you're drawing these, you're supposed to be making a connection and be consciously in tune with what you are creating. By drawing the mandala, you are basically locating source, which is your center point. You are realizing and finding your source. You're realizing that all sacred geometry, all things we know, begin from a singular point, and that's the principle behind drawing mandalas. I see many people who post these all day long, and they do not make the connection, or they're not consciously in tune with what they're creating. So they're just putting their hand on a paper and drawing, and they're missing the principle behind what they're actually creating. And this is where I realized, in my months of doing this, I was doing this for months and months and months, I realized, not only is this infinite, meaning I could make an infinite amount of patterns, never ending. I could make an infinite amount of patterns with this if I wanted, and do these until I'm dead. But that's not my purpose. That's not the purpose, is to keep doing something forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Eventually you have to realize why. So I finally realized, by me drawing these, I am locating source. I am creating. I am the creation becoming the creator. Locating source at the center. So this is where my journey began as far as awakening, drawing mandalas, because that's the key. It lets you know that source is always in the center point. Everything begins from a center point. Everything begins from a center point. So the circle you have produced right here, the circle you have produced on the outside, did not exist until your center point made so. And that's why in the beginning was the Word. This is the Word. The point right here is the Word. In the beginning was the Word. Here's your Word. And everything else is a product after the Word. The Word is your physical point, or your point in the central there. I shouldn't say physical point, because it's really a void. But that's what's bringing or creating light into matter. Which again, matter is not separate from consciousness. Matter is a product of consciousness. You remove the consciousness and all matter goes with it. There's a reason for that. You remove the human senses and the human brain, and the whole universe goes with it. Your identity goes with it. Everything you know goes with it. There's a reason for that. So my journey of awakening began with drawing mandalas, drawing these things, and I eventually began moving into conspiracies, government conspiracies, and trying to, basically I was aware of the grand scheme of the world, right? That everyone who's looked into conspiracies is probably familiar with this, right? You begin hearing names like Rothschild, right? Rockefeller. Big names, government conspiracies, government corporations. You begin studying these things, and you begin realizing that there is a secret power in charge here. There is a secret deity, if you will, that's taking place in this earth, and that's influencing and controlling a lot of what's happening. So my awakening went from me locating source at center to getting lost in conspiracies and governments you know, papers and what have you. And then my idea went from, we're all one, we're all a product of one, to we're being enslaved here. And I thought we were being enslaved here because, again, there was an evil power, at hand. And the government conspiracies led me into this belief. So what I basically, at the end of my journey, was trying to do was put a face, put an identity, put a face to the elite that was enslaving us. I was trying to find that one person, that one face. Because everyone who seems to think, government, they think of Rothschild right away. Rothschild. And I thought I had my face. I thought I had the person who was enslaving me. But in fact, as long as you're researching government conspiracies, you're getting lost in the game. Because what these are supposed to do is lead you into your own awakening of self, of oneness, of the all-seeing eye, which they are worshiping. The all-seeing eye represents a single consciousness. And consciousness is just like a network, if you will. What we're calling consciousness is no different than a network. On one channel, I'm Tyler Ugaldi. On the next channel, I'm a different person. And on the next channel, and the next channel, and the next channel, and the next channel, I'm tuned into a whole different person, a whole different reality. I'm not even on Earth in the other channel. Earth is one channel. That's what consciousness is. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. Consciousness is a channel. If you're here on Earth and in a body, you're tuned into this reality. Or should I say plugged into this channel. But I feel like taking DMT is the quickest way to basically exit one single channel and become the entire network. Taking DMT allows you to overstimulate the brain, and when you overstimulate the brain, you're no longer in tuned or just aware or conscious of one vessel, one channel. Your consciousness begins to seep outside of your own body, and you slowly become everything around you. I become the chair, I become the desk, I become the wall, I become the trees, I become the earth, I become you, I become this, I become that. You become every single thing that you are experiencing until you realize this is you, it is you. I am that I am, all is one. That's what DMT will do. It interrupts your independent channel and brings you into, or shows you into, the whole consciousness, the whole network, which is allowing for these individual channels of consciousness to appear. But back to the government conspiracies. I was trying to put a face and a name and a corporation to who was enslaving the world, who was enslaving the people, who and why. Why would they be doing this? Why? And it wasn't until my psychedelic trip that I realized, I've been saying it the whole time, but I wasn't ready to admit this to myself. All is one. All is one. We're a single consciousness. So what would that mean? Ego aside, what would that mean? Because I wasn't prepared to put my ego aside. At the time, I was more than convinced I had no ego. I was more than convinced there was no ego, so there was nothing getting in my way. Little did I know, there was a lot getting in my way, which was the ego I thought I had rid of, or I had seen through. Because you can never really get rid of ego. It's a part of the experience. But I thought I had seen through the ego, so I thought there's nothing stopping me. My ego's already aside of me, and no. The ego was still fully here, and I was still fully this. But eventually I made the connection. All is one. I'm looking for the face and the person behind who's enslaving the world. And this is where I had to come to the realization and accept responsibility. It was me the whole time. It was me. Yes. just as it was you. Remember, it's not just about me, it's about us. We are one, we are whole. So in the same sense it was me, it was you. We are consciousness. All is one, all is this consciousness. So at the end of you drawing your mandalas, right, all these mandalas, and at the end of you researching your government conspiracies, and you studying the Freemasons and these occult groups and esoteric knowledge, and you trying to find out the connections between Alan Watts and Terence McKenna, Manly P. Hall, Nikola Tesla, all these great minds, right? Walter Russell. At the end of this, you should be realizing they're all expressions of the singularity of Source, and they're all saying the same thing through different expressions, different perceptions, but again, it's basically the same thing, that we're all one mind, we're all one person, viewing itself. We are the mirrors to what we are. Everything outside of us is a mirror. When seen through the illusion, everything is your mirror. Everything which you are experiencing is your mirror, is you viewing yourself of energy. And while you can be consciously aware that this is an illusion, that this is not real, realize this is the only way to exist. This is the only way to bring chaos to order. To dream is the only way to exist. Human beings are constantly, such as Elon Musk, constantly talking about a base reality. Where is the original and first starting point of reality? Where is the real experience? Where there's not a video game, where there's not a dream, where there's not an illusion, where is the real experience? And that's where you have to find out there's no such thing as what you call real. To dream, to hallucinate, to it's the only way to exist. And that's why I tell people, consciousness itself is just one hallucination, one giant hallucination. From the moment you open your eyes off that pillow, you are hallucinating a reality. The only difference is, and the reason you're not freaking out about it, is because this is the only reality you've known. But if you had just opened your eyes here and had no idea how you got here, you had no idea what a tree was, what outside was, what a desk is, what a chair is. If you had no idea and you just woke up here, you'd be freaked the fuck out. You'd be panicking. But since this is all we know, this is normal, this is standard, this is whatever, it's not an hallucination, it's not magic, it's not anything out of the ordinary, it's just all we know, so but we don't realize this is everything we seek. This is the impossibility we seek. This is the magic we seek. And that's why magic doesn't exist so long as we deny the magic within ourselves. Until you realize that your consciousness is magic in itself, you'll never see or experience or view magic outside of yourself for what it is. And some people may be thinking I'm talking about walking through a wall or doing a magic card trick. No. No. But magic is happening every second of every day. That's why kids are more happy than adults, because adults are no longer seeing through the lenses of magic, the lenses of innocence. We've had society's controlled and pushed idea of normalcy on us. Being unique, being different, being separate, that's not cool. So what better way to normalize everyone into one category, standardize everyone into a society which is molded into one ideal confinement or boundary of thinking. So we can only think through these boundaries because we all have been given the same education system. And that education system is only stretching our minds this far, so therefore we can only think this far in terms of everything, including ourselves. But what if we had an education system that wanted to push the limits, that wanted to stretch minds further than just this? But we don't. Because again, we need a society of obedient and normalized people. We can't have everyone thinking beyond the illusion. And that's where everything is in perfect balance comes into hand. Everything is perfectly balanced. While you have some looking for their liberation, some are getting lost in the experience, and vice versa. It's perfectly balanced. And to the ones who are not conscious, it's perfectly okay. Because, again, not everyone needs to be conscious. Just because some who are wandering does not mean they are lost. Realize that. And this is why I speak on my channel, and just my channel, because I'm not trying to force my beliefs on anyone. I'm not trying to tell anyone I'm correct without a doubt. You know, I create my channel for people who resonate with me and who are seeking information greater than themselves, just as I was. Except before my awakening, I wasn't the one making the videos. I was the one studying them, researching them, looking for this one answer that I was trying to find, which is why I've created my channel as an avenue to help people. Maybe I can become that one channel where someone's just saying, you know, if I can just make this one connection or make this one answered, you know, or just if I can just have this one thing clarified, the rest will just fall into place. Some people are just looking for that one piece. And if out of 100 hours and 20 videos of mine, if they've gotten that one answer, I fulfilled my purpose through videos. I fulfilled my purpose through speaking. So the only people who really should be on my videos are the ones who are resonating, who are searching for something, or who simply just like exploring consciousness, who like challenging their thoughts, you know? I mean, whatever. Everyone's welcome here, but my point in saying that is there's a lot of people, you know, with negative comments, and just with respects to that, you know, you don't have to be here. You know, I wouldn't get on someone else's live if I did not resonate, you know, and I wouldn't disrupt what they feel to be true. I wouldn't tell them, no, this isn't true because of this and that. That's your truth, and you own that, and you stand in that place. And those who resonate with you will find you, and that's beautiful. That's divine. We are all missing puzzle pieces to each other. And I'm very open and acknowledge room for error. I'm very open to speaking with other people. I'm just another humble guy here trying to find the same thing you are. Just because I may have a good vocalization or a good way of expressing things does not mean I know anything or everything at all. I'm still a student just as everyone else here. I'm still just a humble student. And I'm very, very open for conversation, room for error. And I just want to throw that out there because there's been a few statuses, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about that, but there's been a few statuses where people have been claiming that, you know, I'm not open and I'm trying to be, you know, this guy who's leading people wrong and all this, and this, just want to quickly address that. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but just had to say that for myself, okay? But if anyone has any questions, now's the time. Please feel free and ask any questions. I'm going to start wrapping up this video, start my day. Hope everyone's having a good Saturday, by the way. I'm going to give any closing thoughts that I have and take any questions anyone has real quick, and then I'll wrap this video up. But basically everything we're searching for, we're not finding. And this is what I want people to realize. DMT is no different. In a DMT hallucination, at least through my experience, you're constantly experiencing a fractal or a pattern or something that's repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. And although it's changing, although it's evolving, although it's shifting, it's still the same damn thing. And you're like, what the hell, what the hell, what the hell, what the hell, what the hell? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's where some people, like, you know, can't handle DMT because they've been like, oh my God, when is this going to stop? When is it going to end? And you're like, dude, it's only been 2 minutes. It's only been 2 minutes. And the person's like, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? It feels like years. Years. Meanwhile, it's only been 2 minutes. But it's because everything we've come to know is dissolving. Everything that we think we know is dissolved. And you go into a trip that's repeating itself, infinity, infinity, infinity. You're experiencing infinity for the first time, and it appears as though it's repeating itself, but it does so until I feel you make the connection that everything you're seeking for through this, whatever you're experiencing, is you. This is why the human being is not finding anything it's looking for, and this is what I want people to acknowledge. We're not finding the alien we're searching for. We're not finding the gods we're searching for. We're not finding the material and matter we're searching for. And again, I've covered that because matter is not separate from consciousness. They're trying to pose the idea that matter is independent from consciousness and not produced from consciousness itself, which is not true. But that's beside the point. But anyway, everything that we are looking for, we are not finding because we are still under the idea we are a human being. So we're the human being looking for an alien. We're the human being looking for gods. We're the human being looking for the material and matter. And we're not making the connection. I am not a human being. I am consciousness. So long as I am a human being seeking my origin, I will never find it. So long as I am a human being seeking gods, I will never find it. Once I become consciousness, I have found it. Why? Because I've lost attachment and I've let go. Once you let go, you become a part of the whole. Through you creating illusions of what should be, of what could be, of what is, through you creating illusion of you trying to chase something, a human being looking for an alien or God, you're missing the entire point that this is you. This is your consciousness. This is what you are. Everything you seek is seeking you because it is you the whole time. Everything you seek is seeking you for that very reason. It is you the whole time. So this is where I say, once you lose your human mind, you have lost your boundary. Some people feel it's scary, it's saddening, because there is kind of a sadness to it. I've cried during my DMT trips when I've seen my death as a human being, and I've cried because I'm mourning myself as what I thought I was. I'm mourning the loss of my illusory self. But once you get past that and accept, okay, this is not what I am, you have shed and eliminated your boundary. You have eliminated boundary. So instead of thinking in human boundaries, I'm open to infinity. I'm wide open, baby. There's no boundary, there's no limits. I'm bound to a body, but the mind is not. I am free. And this is where I've also said, if you're living through and bound to fear, you are already enslaved, my friends. So if you are waking up every day saying, I need to expose the government, I need to warn people of artificial intelligence, I need to do this, I need to do that, you're living through fear, you're seeing and bound just through fear, therefore you are already enslaved. And again, the only one enslaving you is yourself, your mind. And this is what's so scary about being your own. It's empowering, but it's also scary, because it's scary to find out you are literally your own savior and your own destroyer. You can destroy or create your own self. It's scary to realize that because, again, there's nothing outside of you that you can pray to, that you can wish to, and have it do the work for you. It's scary in that sense that I have to do the work. I have to save myself. I have to become everything I seek. But again, it's also empowering. Once you accept this and realize there's nothing stopping you. You have the power this whole time. It is me. It is you. Life is a choice. Everything is a choice. You're split between the brain. Remember, two sides. You have two choices. Duality. I laugh at myself almost every day when I have choices presented to me in the form of more than two, but at the end of the day, they eliminate down to just two choices. Realistically, infinitely, yes, I have an infinite amount of choices I can make. Yeah, but realistically, they will always narrow down to just two. Duality. But as I covered earlier in this video, duality is a product of the mind, is one. The two are one. Because the two are separated through the mind, and the mind is the very same thing which conceptualize them and distinguish them as different. So if the mind is creating these two, and the mind is separating these two, then it's obvious these two are just the mind. These two are just illusory identities in the mind. That goes with everything. So, just to reiterate real quick, there's no starting point. There's no origin to infinity. Origin, beginning, end, these concepts do not exist in infinity. So, as I will say again, as long as the human being is looking for its beginning to consciousness, to its origin in consciousness, it will never find it, because the human being is associating itself as something different than consciousness. The human being is looking for its origin through consciousness. What's creating consciousness? What started consciousness? Where is the creating point? Where's the starting point? And that's the catch. We're not a human being. We are pure consciousness, and through consciousness, we appear through life forms. We appear as a human being. We are consciousness. I cannot say this enough, this video. I think I've said it enough, so I'll stop saying that, but I want to drill this into people. We are consciousness, not the life forms we appear as. And all life forms we appear as are a product of the intelligence which began it all, which again was you the whole time. This is why before your body, or your individual self now, this is why you have no memory or a recollection of what you were before this, of what you could have been before this. You can theorize and have fun with it, but there's no definite, I was this, I was that, my name was this, I was this, I did that. No. Because you weren't a human being before this. You were what created the human race. And before that, you were what created the angelic realm. Because I feel the angelic realm is what created the earth and human race. But as I said, consciousness is a network. And earth is just one channel on this network of consciousness. So this is how we're all the same but different. Some people ask, well, if I'm all is one, but we're different, how are we all seeing and taking in the same earth and the same things? We may be seeing and taking in maybe slightly different things, but at the end of the day, we're all seeing and connected to the same guy. Earth. G-A-I-A. We're all connected to the same earth because we're all connected to the singular channel of consciousness, which is connecting us to this earth, to this channel. So while I may perceive things a different way or hear something a different way than you, obviously, because we're different perceptions. We're still in tune to the very same thing because we are consciousness. We're still in tune to the very same network. We're still plugged into the same channel. It's like having two TVs on in the same, or different rooms on the same channel. Each room is going to be watching the same thing, but each room is going to be taking in different perceptions, obviously. But the same thing is happening in both rooms because it's a single network. And then apply that times a billion. Times a billion. Same thing. And some people ask me, and I'll cover this last question and then I'll end this video because I feel this is a good question for some people who simply don't know what's next. What's next? I found out oneness. I figured out oneness. I figured out I am one with everything. What's next? Right? What's next? What do I do with all this information? Well, you can acknowledge the fact that just because you know this, you still know nothing. That's one. Okay? Two, you're still a student to life and always will be. Just as I am. We're all the student, always will be. So you're never done learning. You're never done growing, and you're never done with whatever it is you're doing. You're always the student. But what I feel we can do next is start improving the self, what we are in the ego. Because some people say, I want to kill the ego, but that's not necessary. Once you've realized oneness, once you've realized infinity, you realize the ego is a part of this mortal experience. You're living through a mortal and identifying as a mortal so that you can distinguish finite from infinity. I can distinguish what I am not with what I am actually, or in actuality. But basically, what we're doing is I feel the only thing we can do, and this is what I feel we're doing. The creation becomes the creator. It creates a life form. That life form becomes the creation becomes the creator, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And this is why I say what I say. Think of it this way. We begin as a Neanderthal consciousness, and I've said this before in some topics. This is a time continuum, right? We begin here. This is the birthing in a Neanderthal consciousness to slowly progress into the human being consciousness. And remember, the human being is looking for the higher intelligence which started it all, right? What started the human being? What started the human race? So you begin as a Neanderthal consciousness, progress into the human being consciousness, and the human being consciousness progresses into the superintelligence which started it all, which again, once they've reached the point which starts it all, you go into the point where you began. So this is why the snake is biting his own tail. You come out, you birth out as a Neanderthal to come around into a human being, and at this point you're saying, what we're saying now. Where's the human origin? Where's the human race? Where's the human birthing? Where's the starting point? What started the human being? What started consciousness? And around this point, we have reached the superintelligence and realized it is us. We are the intelligence, we are the consciousness which started us. Because we're not just a human being, we are consciousness. And that's where you make the realization here. When the head becomes the tail, and when you end where you began, you should realize that you are consciousness, that you have been doing this to yourself, that we are all one, and that it has been and always will be you. Because again, we are consciousness, and consciousness is the intelligence we most seek out. So the main reason I feel the human beings are seeking day and night, we're looking in space for these other life forms, for aliens, whatever you call them. We're looking for a higher intelligence of life forms. And the only reason we're doing so is so that we can have the answer revealed to us as to what started us. Where is the intelligence that started us? But again, we're looking for something that isn't there. It's just like DMT. You're staring into the void, you're staring into that vortex, and you're looking for something that isn't actually there. Like for me, I was awaiting God, and it literally had me waiting in this void for what I felt to be years. Meanwhile, it was only like an hour, 30 minutes. But it felt like I was stuck in this place for years. And it didn't change, it didn't explode and make the connection until I made the connection. Until I realized what I'm waiting for to reveal itself, what I'm looking for, God, is me. That's why I'm not finding what I'm looking for. It's not revealing itself because I'm not making the connection. It's me. So this is why I feel the human beings are most missing what they're most seeking. Because we're overlooking the singularity, we're overlooking consciousness. And we're identifying and living through the boundaries which we appear as. Which again, yes, is a part of the experience, but for the people who are trying to see beyond the boundary, this is the path, this is the way. Losing all attachment and all entitlement is basically, I feel, the easiest way into accepting what you are. And it's the easiest way into accepting and embracing all that you are. Because I've said it, it's a bittersweet realization. It's bitter because you basically have to mourn the loss of yourself. You're mourning the death of yourself, but not a physical death. You're mourning the mental illusory idea you have identified with and given yourself your entire life. That's what you're mourning, the illusory thought you've given yourself and you identified as. But as I've said, once you let go, you lose attachment, you lose entitlement and attachment to the body, to the vessel. You have now made your way into the void. I feel attachment and entitlement are the two greatest things that keep us bound through confinements. They're the two greatest things which keep us stuck in a lower consciousness. Yeah, Sean says, I'm still trying to decode my DMT trips. Let me tell you, brother, that will take from now until eternity. Even for me. Listen, I'll do a video about one of my trips, and it won't be months later, year later, I'll come to a realization and be like, holy crap, how did I not realize that? How did I not see that? How did I not make that connection? So it's like, it's funny, you make different and new realizations even years after, even months after your trips, So it's like, just like Terence McKenna said, once you go into Wonderland, you become a part of Wonderland, Once you go in, you never really come out. You're a part of it. But yeah, that's the hardest part, is trying to decode a DMT trip or a psychedelic trip. And again, it's basically like everything that exists in that space cannot be expressed through the human senses because it's not what the human senses are. Everything that is in that space is not at all what the human senses or human being is at all. It's a complete opposite. But that's what I feel makes it so challenging, is we're trying to take something which cannot be expressed, and that's the maddening part, is we can acknowledge it cannot be expressed through words. We can say that, but yet here we are trying to express it. Here we are trying to philosophize it and create a theory around it or something. Put it into words. But that's our natural expression as a human being. It's only natural that we do so. That's the very point of this exploration, is to share with others what we have found. It's certainly hard though, brother. It really is, I'll tell you that. And like for me, I'll say this, everyone's psychedelic trips, everyone's DMT trips, psilocybin trips, ayahuasca trips, they'll always be different. You'll always get a different message, a different realization, a different viewing, a different whatever, because you're always going into it from a different mindset and a different lens, a different perception, in all of us. So I've said this before, I think what happens or what comes to life during our hallucinations is, what we most house within our minds or within our hearts, something that, we cannot let go. So whether this is a deep question that we're pondering for years, whether it's deep regret, deep pain, deep loss, deep misery, deep depression, or just something deep, whatever you're holding deep inside of you, I feel comes to life and is exemplified on that trip is just magnified and brought to life times 10. So in other words, you have no choice but to face your worst fears. So if you have fears within yourself that are haunting you and living through you every day, and you're bound to them, that's what comes to life in your DMT trip, and you're forced to face that. In other words, forced to face your own fear. But this is why I feel some people come back so humble, because we're forced to basically view and experience and acknowledge everything which we put off and everything we choose to ignore here through illusion. We have no choice but letting go in that moment, because our consciousness is no longer a body. Our consciousness is the entirety, is the role, is the responsibility behind the good and the bad, behind the everything. And that's something that's hard to accept for someone who's gone from a boundary limit and a body and just exploded into infinity. But yes, it absolutely teaches you to let go, and it also teaches you, while in the same sense, I am the creation, or the creator, I'm also limited in my abilities. So while I have control, I also don't have control. I am in control to a certain extent as far as the macrocosm, but as far as the microcosm, I am not in control. And that's where it teaches you have to let go. And this is where some people misconstrue a lot what I say. Like they say, well, you say you're the creator, but why can't you create this? Or why can't you walk through a wall or walk on water and do this? That's absurd. That's just ridiculous, right? So we're creators, but with boundaries. We do have rules, we do have limits, and again, those rules and limits can be broken through once we study what's creating these rules and boundaries in consciousness or in this existence, and we can break them. As long as we can conceptualize it in the mind, it's possible. So everything that people tell me, walking through walls, walking on water, this and that, all these things people are trying to exaggerate with me, it's possible as long as you can think of it. The only thing is seeing into and studying how you make this possible. That is the creation becoming the creator on a macro level, if you will. But again, we're still the micro creation. So we still do have limits, guidelines, rules, right? So this is where I saw I am the creator and I have control, but I'm also the microcosmic creation, and I don't have all the control in the sense, which is where you do have to let go. You have no choice but to let go on a hallucination trip. Once you've taken enough, that is, I've found. Because I've witnessed some of my friends take hallucinations, and when they don't take enough, it's nothing but a fun time for them. It's nothing but a laugh and or maybe just them chilling, listening to music or something. But if you did not close your eyes and witness your death on hallucinations, in my opinion, you did not break through. The breakthrough is you experiencing your physical death, and you being forced to, just as Sean said here, being forced to let go. You have no choice. The trip will stir itself up, and I'm talking, it will haunt you. It will begin to stir the trip so much up for you to where you feel like you're going insane. Things will repeat themselves over and over and over, and you will drive yourself insanity until you let go, just as Sean says. And that's something I had to realize in my trip, because I didn't do much homework on this stuff, which was negligence on my part. This is why I try and help other people with assistance on this stuff, but I didn't do my homework at all. So there was two things I didn't know. I didn't know I was going to die, right? And I didn't know I was going to be forced to let go. But boy, oh boy, was I I had a huge awakening coming my way. Because my trip was stirring up, because I was not letting go. And I was telling myself, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die yet. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. I'm not letting go. So I was just stirring up my own trip. And the trip was getting more haunting, more horrifying, more repetitive, more insane. And finally I realized, I'm inside of my mind. I'm inside of my mind right now. There's no place for me to run. There's no place for me to hide. And that's when I realized, it's telling me I have to die. I have no choice. I'm inside of my mind. I have to die. I have to lay down and die. There's no other choice. There's nowhere to run. I'm in my mind. You cannot run from yourself in the mind. So it was in this moment where the trip drove me so insane, I laid down on my pillow and I said, okay, I'm letting go. I'm going to die. I accept this. I accept it. because I was rejecting it so harshly at first, but finally I accepted it. I accepted my fate, and I said, I'm going to just die. I accept it. What's the worst that can happen, right? I'm going to die, I'm going to die. It's going to happen, let me just accept it. I laid down on my pillow, and as soon as my eyes closed, I experienced the breakthrough where my consciousness was shot so fast out of my body, I couldn't even speak to even give you an interpretation on how that went. But I was blasted outside my body the moment my eyes closed and I touched that pillow. I experienced my physical death. I went into the other side. I was forced to let go. And that's where I say, you lose your idea of what you are. You lose your identity, which at the time feels like you're losing everything, but that's where he says in Fight Club, you have to hit rock bottom. Once you have lost everything, you have become everything. You have made the grand realization. Once I lose everything, I have nothing else to lose. So once you've accepted, I have lost it all, I've lost everything, you are now open to everything as well, because you have nothing else left. So you're open to everything. But this is where you can make the connection and realization that you do not need to be attached to everything you thought you were, because you already are. So attachment just poses the idea that you're not this. So if I'm not this, I have to cling on to it and hold on and be attached, because this is not what I am. So if I hold on a little tighter, I'll stay here. That's thinking through boundary. That's living through boundary. That's living through confinements. Through a consciousness that's set up to have you think in between this and this. Limited. We don't see our way into our limitlessness until we lose the human mind, until we break the boundaries, until we see through our own illusion. Because we each have our own illusion of what's going on right now. We each have our own illusion of what the self is. We each have our own illusion of our identity, of what it should be. But when you're really ready to lose attachment and entitlement to any identity at all, you will realize that you don't need an identity, because you are the entirety. You are the whole picture. It's only through an identity that you can become self-aware and study your own self through infinity. But don't get it confused. You are already infinity. You are already the knowledge you seek. You are already everything you are conceptualizing as separate from yourself. And the only reason you're attached to it is because you have the idea and illusion it is separate from you. So you have to cling on and hold on to dear life. Hold on and never let go. But so long as you're holding on to it, it's not yours. It's not yours. It's once you let go, that everything becomes yours forever. Forever. This includes loved ones that you have lost. They appear separate from you, but if you can conceptualize them in your mind right now at this very moment, they are a part of you, they live through you, they are you. Yes, it's not the same thing as having their presence, and it's not the same thing as... I get that. But they are you. It's just like you wanting your loved one to go to heaven. Well, why do you want them to go to heaven? Because you want them to be with God. God is infinite, God is forever, God is everything. Well, what if you were already everything? What if you already were a part of the whole? That's what you're finding out. We're already everything we're searching for. We're already infinite. We're already the whole. Attachment just creates the illusion that we're not. So once you lose attachment, once you lose entitlement, you can now see through the illusions you are creating for yourself. Attachment and entitlement are just illusions of your own identity, illusions of your own theories. Like I said, once you're clinging on to them, they're not yours. Once you let go of them, they're yours forever. And that's that simple. But I hope my post yesterday, I'm going to wrap up this video now because I've said that like 30 minutes ago and I still haven't stopped the video. So I'm going to wrap up this video, but I hope my post yesterday on Facebook helped people make more connections, you know, as to oneness, as to singularity, as to what we actually are. And that's what I want people to realize, is that Jesus, Shiva, Buddha, Nikola Tesla, Manly P. Hall, Walter Russell, Sadhguru, Dalai Lama, any of these people who you watch on YouTube who are great minds, anybody that you acknowledge as a great mind, even whether they're alive or dead, anyone that you are studying or researching is you. If they're dead already, like Terence McKenna, Alan Watts, if they're already dead and they can no longer speak, then all we have to listen to is their voice and their message from the past. The past, right? But what they're sharing with us is their realization of source, of singularity, and of oneness. What they're sharing with us is the fact that we are not separate and they are you. So with respects to this, Terence McKenna and Alan Watts never died because they're right here. I am Terence McKenna and Alan Watts. You are Terence McKenna and Alan Watts. You are me. I am you. History is our story. His does not mean him for masculine. His is his as our story, not masculine. His is our story. So we're recording our record and our journey of being the infinite traveler into a record of history, because history is our story. So we are the infinite traveler through this record. We've never died, and this is how. I'm taking my experience, my internal experience, and I'm putting it into the external for other people to experience, to hear, to live through, and therefore I've never died. If somebody listened to this video 100 years from now and absorbed my message, they would be realizing Tyler never died. I am them. 100 years from now, listening to myself in this very message, in this very realization, that I am one with everything, that Tyler is past, is future, is present, just as you are, not just me. You are past, future, and present. We're one. A single consciousness. That's the all-seeing eye that everyone's most scared of. Oh no. Right? We're most terrified of this because we're prolonging ourself. We're putting off ourself. And by your lower conscious self telling your higher self that don't look into this. This is evil. This is satanic. This is the Antichrist. This is evil. This is devilish, right? That voice that's telling you not to look at this is your lower conscious self telling you to avoid the answer, which is prolonging your own self. And this answer is going to lead you into your higher consciousness. But the reason it's viewed as not the answer is because your lower consciousness is not ready to stop playing the game of illusion. So you have to persist in the illusion that this represents an evil, sick society and this and that, when really, again, this is the singularity and all is you. This means you are the Freemasons, you are the Rothschilds, you are every government person that you're studying and trying to expose. You are enslaving your own self through your own mental habits. They have convinced you they control you, therefore they do. They have convinced you that they enslave your mind, therefore they do. It's as easy as that. That's the grand realization, and this is where I'm going to end my video. That's the grand realization that you should come to find at the end of this tunnel, is that you are your own enslaver and you are your own liberator. The higher consciousness and lower consciousness is you the whole time. They're still one and the same consciousness. Don't get it confused. So the lower consciousness is you studying government conspiracies, and the higher consciousness, the higher consciousness is you studying government conspiracies and trying to make the connection, and the lower consciousness is trying to put off this study and say, no, don't look into that, don't look into this, it's demonic, it's satanic, it's not the answer, they're government paid, it's this and that. You're prolonging your own self through your lower consciousness, because your lower consciousness wants to keep living the game of illusion. It doesn't want to have its illusion pulled back yet. It wants to still live through the game. It wants to keep playing the game and persisting in the game. But this is where I say, this is why I put my content out. This is not for everyone. This is for people who are looking for the answer. They know something greater than themselves. So this is the answer. You are your own enslaver. You are your own liberator. It's what you choose, but it is you the whole time, and it always has been. All is one, and that's what this means. It means that we also have to lose attachment and entitlement, but also responsibility is a huge part of this as well. You have to take responsibility for everything that's happening. And this, I'd have to say, this topic alone is where I've faced the most backlash, where people have said, you know, I've got to take responsibility for this, so you're saying that it's me that's doing this and this and this and this and this. You know, all the pedophilia and the murdering and this and that. I get it. I get that, you know, it's harsh to have to take responsibility that we are all one, therefore the good and the bad are you. It's very hard to have to accept that, obviously. It's hard for me to even have to accept that. But the two are just a product of one mind. Remember, good and bad, good and bad. So in one person's mind of good, killing is horrible, is bad, is the lowest you can go. Where in another perception, killing is good because maybe this person was killing this person to justify abuse or this or that, you know, whatever. Someone protecting someone. There's always two sides of the coin in the perception of duality. So what you view as good, others view as bad, and what others view as bad, others view as good, and it's all balancing each other out. But again, we're all one mind, and we're all one. So we're doing this to ourselves. We're only hurting and harming and being hurtful to ourselves. And it is a harsh realization to have to face. But that's why it is relevant what is happening in the collective consciousness outside of us. It's not to get us absorbed and consumed with the external world, right? But it's not to be ignored either. We also have to acknowledge what's coming out of the collective consciousness, because this is also coming out of ourselves, out of our mind. We are this one mind. So if this is happening and coming out of the mind, we need to be reviewing why. And I feel the most obvious answer is obviously, you know, we're not making the connection of oneness. We're not realizing oneness. So obviously, if I'm going to kill you, and I knew that once I kill you and I die, I've got to be rebirthed into your shoes where I am murdered, but again, I killed you. So I've got to be rebirthed into your shoes where I kill myself. If I knew that, would I still have killed you? If I'm in a world where I'm abusive, but I knew that's me, would I consciously hit myself, punch myself in the face? That's literally what you're doing, being abusive, either verbally or physically. But you're putting yourself down, you're hurting yourself. Would you do this if you knew this was you? And the answer would be a fat no to some people who have no self-love. They obviously will say, well, no, I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care. I don't have self-love at all. If you don't love self, then you cannot love another. It's pretty common, right? But I feel this is the number one reason as far as why things are so ugly, things are so hostile toward each other right now. Like, everybody's so hostile and ready to jump down the next person's throat, you know, and we constantly want to point out where others are wrong, and we can't point out, like, you can be aware maybe someone's wrong, but instead of pointing out where they're wrong, why not point out where they're doing good? Or point out something where you can find a positive in it. See, this is where we've come so low in treating each other. We have no self-love, we have no compassion, we have no understanding, because we do not have these things within ourselves. If I can reflect compassion and love unto you, it's because I have this in myself. If I can understand what you are going through, no matter what it is, and not judge you, it's because I have no judgment of self, and I have compassion for myself. And it's the same with anything, with love and with anything. Just if I have no self-love, I'm going to reflect no self-love onto you. But oneness, this whole study isn't just for, for nothing. This is what I feel we can do with this knowledge. Take oneness and apply it to our experiences. Like with me, I try and better my ego, myself, my character every day. We all have anger, we all have trouble with certain emotions, so that's what I focus my attention on. I take this knowledge of oneness and I try and apply it on bettering myself as a character, as an ego. Because, we can know all this stuff, but it doesn't matter until you apply it. So it's still a test for me every day. When someone gets under my skin, when something gets under my skin, I have to remind myself, this is a test. This is myself. That is myself. Testing me now. Testing my character. Do I practice what I preach, or do I give in? But oneness, I feel, this is what can allow us to better ourselves as people. And then once we become that change we wish to see, it's going to attract into us and around us. And the people that we wish, we thought we wanted to have experiences with and stuff, we begin to create and manifest. And they begin attracting to us. Just because of our vibration, just because of our energy and our passion. We have to become the change we want to see. And that included myself. I had to become the change I wanted to see. It's very easy to say, we've got to change the world and do this and that. And everyone says, well, you can't change the world just with one person. And you very well can. And I'm not the first person to say this. I've seen many people say this, but it's very true, and to me it's very obvious. It begins with us. We are the entirety. And it's very easy to sit there and say, I want to see the world change, but, let's start seeing it happen first, and then I'll change. That's easy. That's easy work. It's hard to become the change you wish to see. And stick with that change. Because obviously when you're in the beginning of a new change, a new shift, the external has to take time to shift and change with you. So you're still going to be getting faced with negativity and backlash and other things that don't resonate with you. But as long as you stick with it and face it, stay true to yourself, you will begin to create a better experience, and people who resonate with you and things that you're putting out will attract back to you, because we are basically a magnet. A giant magnet. And that goes with the laws of attraction. But I'm going to shut up and just stop this video. Because I think I'm like 2 hours in right now. Now about an hour and a half in. Yeah. I was supposed to stop this live like 40 minutes ago. I apologize if any of that was just me rambling and rambling and rambling and rambling. Because I could be here until 12 o'clock today. So I apologize. But I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you to everybody who was active and commenting and supporting me. Thank you for all the support every day. I love everyone infinitely. Thank you very much for the shares, for the likes, for just the feedback even, for your opinions, for your comments. Thank you very much. I'm going to post this video on my YouTube channel. It's Red Pill Rabbit Hole. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd appreciate your subscription, Red Pill Rabbit Hole. I also have my Facebook channel, Order of the Black Wheel Matrix, which is on my Facebook page. And, yeah. That's where my content is at. So thank you to everybody for being here with me today. Love you all, and have a good Saturday, have a good weekend. And remember, every single day is Friday.